Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to look at how to spawn waves of enemies. Just like the others in this series, this is part of a game that I'm working on, so this is a much more intermediate tutorial. It's not introductory, it's basically for people who already know how the commands work but maybe are having trouble putting it all together. And what's going to happen is once all these wolves have spawned, there will be a boss wolf, and then when we beat the boss wolf, it will bring us to the upgrade scene, and then when we come back to here, it will be an entirely different set of enemies, and that's what I want to demonstrate to you how to do. So once he gets defeated, it brings you here, which we looked at in a previous video, and now that we come back, entirely different enemies are being spawned. So how do we do this? Well, we're going to look at two scripts mainly. So this is the village scene that we're looking at, and here's the GM object. Again, calling it GM means nothing. It's just indicating to you, the programmer, that you're using it as a game master object. And it's pretty much an empty object other than some scripts. As you can see, variables have been set up for those individual objects. So these are all the enemies. So let's take a look at that script. Here it is. So by making these public, that's what makes them accessible in the inspector. And so it's just dragging and dropping the objects that are going to be spawned into the proper variable. This is used to determine how many times you want a wave to be run, because rather than having to put a lot of commands, I use like 8 or 9, depending on which wave you're looking at, and then have it cycle through multiple times to save coding. We'll talk about this at the end, but this is what decides how, or should I say, which wave gets spawned. Because if you have 10, 20, 30, 40 waves, you really don't want a whole bunch of if-then statements or a switch statement to say, if such and such variable equals such and such, then load this other wave. This does it dynamically. So you could have 10,000 waves, and this one line will load the right wave. So let's see how that works. So we use primarily IEnumerator. That's about all there is to this script. Other than setting up the enemies, it's just a bunch of coroutines. So naming is important. They all have exactly the same naming structure. Spawn, wave, and then a number. So spawn wave 1, spawn wave 2, spawn wave 3. We'll get to the boss waves in a minute. So it's important that the number is identical. Okay. And then there's probably more concise ways of doing it, which is fine. This just says wait a certain amount of time and then instantiate some enemies. I'm not going to go through the details, but instantiate is what has been instantiated, where has it been instantiated, and the rotation of that which has been instantiated. So as you can see, I'm instantiating a bunch of wolf enemies. You could say, well, why use so many commands? Because eventually I'm going to replace some of the wolves with other enemies, and that way I don't have to go back and recode this. I can just replace this wolf enemy with lizard enemy. I can replace this one with whatever, spider enemy. So I'm trying to keep this easy to read as well as scalable going forward. So it's just a series of waits followed by instantiation of enemies. Then this variable is reduced by 1. So this is how many times I want this to be run. So technically, you don't have to do the cycles to next wave. You can just keep writing out the instantiations. But at a certain point, I want this to be rinse and repeat. So technically, you could simplify this by not having cycles to next wave. But that's how I made it. So this could be 1, 2, 20, 30, however many times you want this wave to be run. So when you get to this point, cycles to next wave is reduced by 1, and then it says, okay, is that variable greater than 0? If it is, then do it all over again. So this needs to match this. So it's basically initiating itself. It's auto-recursive. And then what happens is it says, wait a second, if this is not 0, then go ahead and spawn the next wave. So each time that you see enemies attack, it's actually 2 separate waves. And you could technically do that as just one wave, but I'll show you why I did a second wave. And then we have to set this back to 1, or else it won't cycle. It will only cycle once. So again, This can be 2, 3, 5, whatever you want to change it to. Okay, so this says once that number is below 1, then go ahead and start the next wave. And so the next wave looks very similar, but as you can see, this is wolf enemy 2, so this is actually a faster running wolf. And again, you can put other enemies here. I'm just trying to make this easy to troubleshoot as well as easy to read, but you can come back and replace this with other enemies. Again, the cycle stinks wave is reduced. If it's greater than 0, then just go ahead and run this again. So again, this needs to match this. And then once it's less than 0, now we're going to go to a boss wave. And the boss wave is much more concise. Wait 1 second, spawn the boss, and then the current wave gets set to 3. And it's not a coincidence that the next one is 3. That's the whole point, is that we are going to be pointing to this, and I'll show you how that works in just a minute. So that's basically what a spawn wave looks like. It's just a series of delays and a series of instantiates. And again, the extra complexity is if you want the same wave to be repeated a few times, you can do something like this. Okay, so these enemies that are getting spawned, they have a script attached to them named enemy, which is this. So what happens is every enemy also has a tag. So if we click on this, we'll say the wolf, you can see it has a tag. So the script is attached to every enemy. It checks that tag. And yes, one of the viewers has pointed out that there's a better way to do it than tag. I'll get to that eventually. I keep saying that, but I will eventually. It does create bloat, and it's not as efficient. So generally, when I do my first pass through the game, I'm not really concerned about efficiency. I'm concerned with readability, the ability to troubleshoot, and usually most of my games are not resource intensive, so I'm not as worried about garbage collection, so to speak, but he certainly is correct that there is a better way to do this. But again, I'm concerned about readability and easily to troubleshoot, particularly in those early stages of prototyping. So this says check the tag of the object the script is attached to, and depending on what that tag is, do a few things like give it a velocity. Okay, so you could technically have all these use the same tag like enemy rather than wolf, lizard, goat, bull. But then you couldn't make all these differentiating factors. You'd have to base it on something else and it gets messy. So you're going to have complexity no matter what you do. So at this point in time, I use tag. And then based on tag, I will, at least in this example, adjust velocity based on the tag. This one, as you can see, I'm changing the HP based on tag. The bulls are like the third or fourth wave, and so I want them to have more hit points, but they also move slower. They're a little bit more tanky, a little bit more bullet spongy, not that much. Okay, so we mentioned that we really wanted to focus on the spawn wave. So let's go to Boss Wolf. So we saw the wolf. So he's much more tanky. He's much more bullet spongy. He has 10 HP, okay? But he also moves even slower, okay? So what happens is if the object the script is attached to is Boss Wolf, gets 10 HP and moves that speed. Now, if the HP gets reduced to less than 1, so 0 HP, I'm not going to show you the collision detection. That's really a separate tutorial, but it's basically just checking for a collision between the object the script is attached to and the projectile from your player. That's pretty straightforward. I have tutorials showing how to do that. So when there's a collision between the object the script is attached to, also known as an enemy, and a projectile, then HP gets reduced. So in the update section, so every single frame, this says, okay, let's check the HP variable on each object the script is attached to. Well, here's Boss Wolf. So this gives you 2 skill points. I'm not going to go into that. We already talked about that in the last video. Skill points is what lets you decide how many upgrades you can do. And then load garage. Garage is what I'm using, what I refer to as the upgrade scene. So the scene is called upgrade, but in my mind, I'm thinking of it as a garage. So you jump down here to the garage function. So this is a function made by me. This is a user-made function, unlike unlike start, unlike update. This will never ever automatically run. You very specifically have to call it. You have to say run this function. Okay. And the function is pretty straightforward. It says load the scene called upgrades. As I said, this scene is called upgrades. When you click on that button, what it does is it then just says load the village. So in the garage scene, you have a very similar line of code, but rather than saying load upgrades, it says load village. And as we said, village is the name of the scene where all the combat is going on. Okay. So last thing. So village gets reloaded. As we said, the wave spawn script is attached to the GM object in the village scene. So when the village gets reloaded, this gets rerun all over again. It gets executed again. And then that's where this comes in. So again, 20, 50, 100 waves, however many waves you have, you don't want a bunch of if statements. You don't want a switch statement that has, one choice for each and every wave. Instead, you are going to use a start coroutine that has a name that is dynamically created. In other words, normally you would do this, start coroutine and then the name of the routine, spawn wave 1. And like we said, that is completely terrible. That does not scale well at all because you'd have to do that for each and every single wave, okay? But what you would do instead, I'm just leaving this here for comparative purposes. Instead, since all of the waves have the same naming, spawn wave, and then a number, you can instead say start coroutine, quote, spawn wave, quote, and then plus. Even though it's saying plus, this is not mathematics. This is actually concatenating. You're appending something to the word spawn wave. Well, what are you appending? You are appending gameflow.current wave, and then you're changing it to a string. So in other words, spawn wave plus this number, and that just converts it to a string. And as we said, spawn wave plus 1. Well, we said that when you beat the first boss, current wave gets set to 3. So when this gets reloaded, spawn wave 3. And so rather than going to spawn wave 1, you go to spawn wave 3. You don't have to worry about the spawn bosses because, again, spawn boss is only referred to when you're already in another wave. And then it's just rinse and repeat. So let's look at the next boss. Current wave 5. So this would come out to spawn wave 5. So this is an incredibly powerful bit of coding because it scales perfectly. No matter how many waves you have, that will work. And I think that alone is probably the most important lesson of this tutorial. And you can use that for many other things as well. This is just one example where you can choose what coroutine you want to run based on this kind of dynamic naming. So I think that's about it. We already saw it in action, and this is what I'll be working on for the next few weeks. And I'm basically at the point where almost everything is in place as far as functionality. All that's left is really just integrating the different enemies. I bought a bunch of resources from the Unity store, from this particular creator, Downrain DC. I personally find the models to be really great. Not quite Super Deformer, but the head is a little bit bigger than the body, but he has so many different animations already on them that just about anything you could think of, it will do. It already has multiple attacks, a damage animation, a stun animation, idle animation, so on and so forth. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. Again, this is not meant to be introductory. This is meant to be much more intermediate, that for people who are familiar with these commands but are just having trouble putting everything together, and also to give you an update on what I've been doing because I really want to bring this game to fruition finally, and hopefully we'll have it done soon. Okay, so I think that should about do it. So if this was useful, then please do a like and a comment of anything else you'd like to see. and please enjoy the rest of your day.